Hey, Gail.
Hi, Tom. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We'll just hang out and let people join. We'll get started a little bit.
Sure. I'll be mindful as people join. I can go back on mute. How's your afternoon going?
Oh, not too bad. How about yourself?
Well, good, thanks. Getting some nice weather here through the window and not bad.
Good.
Yeah, that's definitely a kind of a novelty nowadays. We just don't know, what's.
Yeah.
Well, great. Nice to see you today and look forward to hearing more.
Yep. We'll see. Hopefully, I think we'll be a relatively small group this year, but we'll see. I'm curious to see who joins us, but we'll find out.
Sounds good. It looks like a lot of people may join, and I guess we'll see. Sounds good. Thanks. I guess 3 minutes early is early now in Zoom time. It's
That's true. I mean, in person, you show up 5 minutes early, and it's a good time to just chat. But on Zoom, right? It's
yeah. I feel like
3 minutes feels 5 minutes. I was like, oh, 5 minutes feels really early.
Yeah, we feel like we should hammer out a couple tasks, or yeah. I feel like formal. Oh.
Welcome everyone who's joining. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Probably we won't start right at 2 o'clock. We'll give folks a few minutes after 2. So welcome to those who are joining. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. All right. We're gonna wait another 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll get started just to let see if anyone else is going to join us. But then we'll get going. All right, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate you hopping onto this bidders conference for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. My name is Tom Webster. I use he, him pronouns. I am the program manager for Thurston County's Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. We have a small enough group today. Some years our RFP is a little bit bigger. We have a little bit more money, but so this is a smaller. So I'd like to, I know many of you, but perhaps not all of you. So I'd like to do some quick introductions, just kind of your name and organization. So to start us off, so I will go ahead and just call out if you could just unmute yourself and let us know who you are and where you're coming from. That would be helpful for us. We are recording this. We are hopeful we will intend to post this on our website so folks who are not able to attend can receive this information as well. So with that, I'll start off with staff from our housing office. Jacinda, to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, Jacinda Stelchis with Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. I am our Affordable Housing Coordinator, also overseeing Cdbg program and Cdbg Home in 2060.
All right, thanks.
Welcome.
And Cody.
Hi everyone, I'm Cody. I am the contracts assistant with the housing department at Thurston County.
Great. Thank you. All right, then I'm just going to go through the participant list, kind of in order I have them as people jump around on the screen. If you could just briefly, your name and your organization would be helpful. Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Hagee, Thurston County TV, in the accounting department there.
Thank you. And Angie.
Hi, I'm Angie. I'm at PCAF ending the HIV epidemic in the South Sound.
Thank you. Cora.
Hi, I'm Cora Davidson with Cora Davidson Consulting.
All right, Dan.
Yes, Dan Rubin, Thurston Housing Lands Trust.
Right, Erin.
I'm Erin Shive with Build a Bus Home in Thurston County.
Gabe.
I'm Gabe Ash, Program Director with Catholic Community Services.
Gail.
Gail Hemman with Community Youth Services, grant writer.
My names are jumping around here. Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah Nelson, and I'm with Catholic Community Services.
Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Binns, and I'm with Cora Davidson Consulting.
All right. Home Share.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Hutchinson, and I am with Senior Services for South Sound. I am the manager of the Home Share program.
Casey.
I'm Casey Kimmel with Catholic Community Services.
Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly McNally, Roof Community Services Executive Director in Rochester.
All right. Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Gelati with Build a Bus Home and Shower Power Plus.
All right. Maya.
Hey, this is Maya from Family Support Center of South Sound.
Maureen.
Hi, I'm Maureen Hill, unaffiliated, interested citizen.
All right. Mike.
Hey folks, I'm Mike Gregory, Development Director at Senior Services for South Sound.
All right. Neil.
Hi, I'm Neil Hilton. I'm with Catholic Community Services.
Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Lundmark, Executive Director of Thurston County Volunteer Legal Services.
Oops. Shelley.
Shelley Willis, Executive Director of Family Education and Support Services. Thanks.
All right. Did I miss anyone? Does anyone not introduce themselves? All right. Well, thank you for that. It's always helpful to know who's here. So what we're going to do today is just provide an overview of the RFPs that we've issued. So provide a high-level overview of some of the key dates, what to expect our process moving forward. We will then talk about each of the RFPs that we've put out. So we have a couple different fund sources that we've put out for bid. So we'll talk through those at a high level. And then we're going to spend some time showing you Zoom Grants. Zoom Grants is the online application system we've used for the past 4 or 5 years now. So I think many of you are familiar with it, but we'll do a high level walkthrough of that system in case there's some folks who are new to Zoom Grants. And then really want to save a good chunk of time for any questions that you have for us about this process, about what the county's looking for, any questions you have that we can answer. So that's really our objective today, is to make sure that you feel that you have the information you need to submit a strong and successful application to access these funds. All right, so to start off, as everyone knows, our RFP is out on the street and went live on Friday. So hopefully everyone has knows how to access that. It is posted to the Thurston County Public Health and Social Services website. From there, you can find a link to Zoom Grants to start an application process. And I won't get into Zoom Grants too much now. We'll get into that more later. If anyone needs us to send you information, or if you're having a hard time finding the RFP documents, please reach out to us and let us know. So that did open on Friday. Applications are due on Friday, April 1st at 12 noon. We did not pick April Fool's Day on purpose. We just picked the first Friday in April. Please note that applications are due at noon. We close the application at noon. Applications that are submitted after noon on Friday, April 1st will not be accepted or reviewed. We are trying to avoid the slippery slope of trying to, find, certain situations. Oh, that my internet broke. One year we had an electrical storm the day applications were due and some folks had electricity. Don't wait till the last minute to submit your application. I urge you, please do not wait till the last minute. We will, at our discretion, may allow some correction of administrative issues that are not substantive, such as, if there was you attached the wrong verification form, we would, allow you to correct that. But in terms of substantial information for your application, you will not be able to make any additions to your application after noon on April 1st. If you submit your application early, you can go in and still edit that in Zoom Grants all the way up until that noon deadline of April 1st. So with that deadline of April 1st, the next step is, depending on what fund source you're applying for, those applications will be reviewed here at the county. We'll talk a little bit about who's reviewing those applications based on each fund source. Our expectation is for most of the funds that we will have decisions on what applications to award sometime in May, is when many of these will go through the Regional Housing Council, but award decisions for the most part should be made in May. But then we do need to go to the Board of County Commissioners in June for approval to award contracts. So that won't happen until probably mid-June. So, but we do expect to notify applicants sometime in May about whether there's an expected award. And then that becomes official in June once the Board of County Commissioners approves those recommendations. The start date of contracts will depend on the funding source of the funds you're applying for. State funds generally start on July 1st of this year. Some of our other federal funds will start usually after October 1st, depending on when we receive our contract from HUD. And then the 2163 contracts for those local document recording fees, those contracts start September 1st. So once you receive award, we'll provide more information on the specific start date for your contract. All of our contracts this year will be one-year contracts. With the capital projects, there's a little exception with the capital projects. But the other services projects will be one-year contracts. Last year, most of the contracts we awarded were two-year contracts. They will be renewed for this coming year. Everything we're awarding this year is a one-year contract. So these are not two-year contracts we're awarding. Next year in 2023, when we have all those kind of two-year contracts expiring, we'll have another large RFP and put out my expectation is next year we'll be awarding a large amount of kind of two-year contracts again. So this is a bit of an off-year RFP process for us. All right, so that's kind of an high-level overview. Before I get into specific fund sources, any questions at this point in the process? Any questions about dates or kind of process questions that folks have? All right, Dan.
Yes, just for clarity, will there be questions taken today, or is that all going to be a written process?
No, questions will be taken today, so feel free to answer questions. We're recording this, so this will be posted for anyone who cannot attend. So yes, yeah, we will be taking questions today. All right, so the first RFP I want to talk about is our homeless services RFP. So we have two pots of money that we're awarding under kind of homeless services. So these are kind of combined under the affordable housing and homeless services is one document, but we're talking about them in two separate pieces, the homeless services and the affordable housing. Jacinda will talk about the capital affordable housing piece. But for homeless services, we have really two buckets of money that we're awarding this year. One is the Regional Housing Council has set aside $400,000 for cold and hazardous weather shelter activities. So these are activities cold weather activities happen between November 1st and March 30th, April 30th. So during the cold weather season. So this includes both shelter and kind of shelter in place activities is what we've funded in the past. This is an increase over what we've funded in the past. In past years, we've set aside $250,000 for cold and hazardous weather. This year, that has been increased to $400,000. So looking for applications specifically for cold and hazardous weather. Cold weather, as I said, is during the cold weather season. Hazardous weather, our contracts can happen at any time during the year. So we had a hazardous weather event just last week when it got really cold at night. The snow kind of around Christmas, New Year was a hazardous weather event. But hazardous weather can also occur in the summer during smoke season. Extreme heat could be a hazardous weather event. So those contracts are year-round contracts, and they're primarily designed to increase our capacity to provide those services during those extreme weather events, whether that's shelter or shelter-in-place activities to help people survive those extreme conditions. So looking for contracts or looking for applications to support those activities. The other pot of money we have this year was a little unexpected. We received a notification from the Department of Commerce that we are receiving a little over $300,000 in consolidated homeless grant funding, in addition to what we awarded last year. So these are funds that need to be spent by June 30th of 2023. So just over $300,000. We have not set a priority for how these funds can be used. These funds can be used for any eligible CHG activity. However, Commerce does require that at least 36% of our funds be used for payments to private sector landlords. So even though the county has not set a priority, in order to use these funds, we are expecting to award at least 36% for payments to private sector landlords. That can be rapid rehousing or kind of other rent assistance activities. So that is something that is required for those fund sources. But otherwise, the CHG funds have a range of eligible purposes, and those are listed in the RFP. If you have questions, specific questions around what's eligible to be used for CHG, please let us know. But generally speaking, homeless services are eligible. They're not intended for housed individuals. They are intended for folks who are either literally homeless or at imminent risk of homelessness. So those are the two kind of pots of homeless services funds that we are putting out. Before we move on to the next bucket of funds, any questions about that this time?
Hey, Tom, this is Cora. Could you just define for me what the imminent risk of homelessness, how that's defined?
That is defined, and is basically they have a 14-day pay or vacate notice. So it's not necessarily someone who's just behind on rent, but they need to have a notice that they're going to be evicted if they don't pay. So they're at imminent risk of homelessness.
Tom, I have a question about the county. Do they have to have a residence in the county prior to? Sometimes people are transitioning from county to county. Are there any rules around how their history in living in the county?
I do not believe so. I am not the expert on CHG rules, so I hesitate to give you a definitive answer. I believe that is allowed. In the RFP, we do link to the CHG guidelines, which may have some more information. So if we're happy to provide, Shelley, we can follow up with you to kind of get you a specific answer on that, but I believe it is allowed. All right, and we'll take questions kind of throughout. So if other questions come up, feel free to kind of just pipe in. I'm going to turn this over just to Jacinda, and she's going to talk about the capital dollars that we have out.
Hey everyone. So I am looking at notes here too. So if you have a hand up, if a hand pops up and I miss it, please feel free to unmute, or maybe Tom can look for that too. Just want to make sure I'm not missing questions. So our next pot of funding is described as capital improvement projects. So just before, so these are projects that'll be funded with home funds, federal HUD home funds. Approximately 700,000 will be available for that. And then 2060, our local recording tax funds, approximately 550,000 in that funding source. So these are projects that maintain, enhance, and expand the supply of affordable housing for low-income homeowners, renters, and special needs populations through new construction, acquisition, and/or rehabilitation. It is essential that there are low-income individuals that are benefiting from these funding sources. Again, so these are projects that will be funded with home and 2060 funds. We would expect that our projects that have already been placed in our affordable housing pipeline, those were placed in 2019 through RFI, request for information. We would expect to see those applicants come in and respond and let us know that they are still interested and they are ready to move forward. Priority will be given to those projects, but the RFP is not limited to those projects. So if there's enough funding and we get enough applicants that are eligible and ready to move forward, we will certainly consider more than those 2 projects that are already in the pipeline. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out. And Deanna, I do see you. I have just one more comment and then I'll jump over to you. The other thing to keep in mind is that because these are federal funds, the home funds are federal funds, there are some pretty tight deadlines. So we are looking for projects that are able to begin construction within the next 12 months so that we are complying with our HUD requirements as well. Dan, go ahead.
Yes, if there are funds left over, I think it referred to a 3rd project. Is that limiting, or is it possible that if there are funds left over, more than one small projects might be funded?
I would say that if there are applications that come in that don't, that 3rd project doesn't require that full amount that's kind of left over from the other projects that are already in the pipeline, that there would be more than a 3rd considered. From, as Tom mentioned, that there's funding recommendations that'll be made in May. And some of you all, this doesn't necessarily apply, but just want to remind you, Dan, that the affordable housing team will have 2 representatives on the selection process as well to get to weigh in. So we are also accepting applications for organizations that are CHODOs, Community Housing Development Organizations. However, we may choose not to award CHODO funds. We may choose to award just all home funds. So the dollar amount for the funds won't change, but just know that we may or may not choose to do that set aside. We do have that option this year that HUD has provided to us. And I will get into later more in Zoom grants. So some of this next comment will make a little bit more sense. But just want to remind you all, for those that are applying for the capital improvement projects funding or responding to that RFP, you do need to make sure there are some things that we will need to look at and evaluate as part of the application process, and I'll need when we get to actually underwriting and funding and all the fun stuff that comes later on. But we do ask for a project timeline that's associated with the project, financing sources, a project team summary, a risk assessment. There's also an acknowledgement of required assurances. So these are all forms that are in Zoom grants where the application is housed. And when we jump over to Zoom grants, I'll show you all where to find those forms and how to upload them. But just be aware that for the capital improvement projects, that those kind of extra things are required to give us a good idea of what the project is and the timeline for completing it. I think that is all I have for, sorry, jumping over to my agenda. So it looks like I can take questions and then I think we can jump into CDBG. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, a CHODO question. The option exists not to give a CHODO grant. Has there already been discussion among county actors about whether or what considerations would be looked at? So that is otherwise a criteria, a decision lacking criteria, which makes it difficult for potential applicants who some may know and some may not know about discussions that have occurred about general intent. So I guess I'm asking officially, is there any discussion that has happened about which way this will be decided or the criteria that will be used within discretion to come to a decision?
Yeah, and I can speak, and then also Tom, if you have anything to add. So I think part of our decision this year, so typically HUD requires that 15% of our home funding is set aside for what are called CHODO organizations. largely because of COVID and the impacts it's having on large housing projects. We were able to take a waiver on that CHODO requirement. So we have the option of awarding or not awarding up to 15%. So as I said earlier, there are 2 projects that are already in our affordable housing pipeline that were placed in 2019. So that is a housing authority, a Thurston County project, and FFC.
Lehigh?
It's not
Foundation for the
Lehigh.
Challenge.
No, not. Oh.
Foundation for the Challenged. So I think the thought was with leaving it somewhat open with the CHODO, we know that projects that came in 2019 are likely experiencing or will experience some larger numbers in terms of what it's going to take to develop, as well as potentially some delays in materials. So those projects may need more than what was originally, I guess, imagined. So those ones, again, are already in the pipeline, so they will be given priority. But so, for instance, like, I don't think either of those are designated as CHODO organizations, but they are projects that have already kind of had a pre-commitment and have some forward movement, so we want to keep that forward movement. But if they come in and there isn't a large amount of, you know, the costs aren't more or aren't restrictive to still awarding CHODO, I imagine we would likely do that, but just trying to be really flexible and position ourselves so that we can actually get projects completed and not kind of pigeonhole ourselves so that we have to award CHODO. And I don't know if that kind of adds a little bit of clarity or makes it a little bit more confusing.
It's
but
valuable
priority will be
background. Thank
given
you.
to those projects.
It's valuable background.
Again, we can, if you have other questions or want to talk through stuff more, I'm available as well. But,
thank you.
Yep.
The only thing I would add is that there has not been real discussion about this at the Regional Housing Council level, at that level to kind of lean one way or another. So this was kind of staff making sure that the county had sufficient flexibility. All right, you want to move on to CDBG?
Yeah, so I do see a question from Gabe that last year there was 1 year basic needs fund, and what pot of funding would basic needs be covered by this year?
Yeah, and I can answer that. So the basic needs awards from last year were actually, we did make 2-year awards, so we are intending to renew those basic needs awards from last year, renewing those for a 2nd year. So those were actually, in the past, those had been 1-year awards, but last year we made those as 2-year awards. So there's not new basic needs funding this year, but organizations that received basic needs funding last year will be renewed.
Any other questions before we move on to community development block grant? Okay. So the next RFP is for, again, community development block grant funding. Just scroll a little bit here in my notes. So this is another federal funding source. The primary objective of this program is the development of viable urban communities by providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities. This is another funding source that is designed and designated for low and moderate income individuals. And when we say low and moderate income, that is defined as 80% or less of area median income. And I will also note that, again, when we get over to Zoom grants, I can show you where to find some more details about this funding source. And that also includes a table that shows actual dollar amounts for what is 80%, depending on a household size. So these projects this year must benefit South County residents. So for those who are new to CDBG in Thurston County, we rotate our funds. every year for a 3-year period. This first year will be again South County, and the next year we will move to Lacey, and then Tumwater rounds out our 3rd year and we start over. So in 2022, again, we are soliciting applications for projects that will serve South County, South Thurston County, excuse me. So that's Yelm, Tenino, Rainier, Bakota, and unincorporated Thurston counties such as Grand Mound, Rochester. Eligible activities for CDBG funding this year are public services, infrastructure improvements, community facilities, and economic development activities. I do want to note that the South County mayors do help and set these activities that they are interested in funding, and we aren't accepting applications for housing activities this year through CDBG. So just be aware of that. Just a few very brief examples. Public service activity may be a program that's offering food assistance. Infrastructure improvement project could be something such as an improvement of a community park that is open to the public. An example of a community facility project could be the construction or improvements to a community center. And an example of economic development activity is technical assistance to small businesses. Again, within the RFP instructions for CDBG, there are more examples, and I am your contact for CDBG. So if you are looking at the resources and you're still not sure if your project meets one of those eligible activities, please give me a call early on so I can help you before you go all the way through the application and submit something that is possibly not eligible. So in addition to being an eligible activity that is being solicited this year, the project must also meet a national objective of serving low-income individuals. And that has to be done by providing a benefit to low or moderate income individuals. So that could be either an area benefit, a limited clientele benefit, or a jobs benefit. Area benefit, and again, this is something that I can talk more in depth with you in kind of a more project specific conversation. But just to let you know now, Yelm, Tenino, and Bakota, as well as Grand Mound, Rochester, are all low income areas as established by HUD. So that area benefit is most easily used in those areas because area benefit, excuse me, area benefit is essentially illustrating that the project is benefiting an area that is primarily low or moderate income. Limited clientele benefit, that can be that your project or program is serving a population that is presumed to be low income, such as senior citizens or houseless individuals. Or your program, if you're not primarily serving a presumed population, then we would be expecting that there's a way for you to document the income of those that are participating in your program, and that at least 51% of those participants would be low or moderate income individuals. And then the last benefit is jobs benefit. So this is essentially we'd be looking for the project or program to be able to document the jobs are being created or retained, and those jobs are benefiting individuals that are currently low or moderate income. So again, when we jump over to Zoom grants, which is coming up, I think maybe next year, I'll show you where to find more information about the CDBG and instructions that will provide more guidance. But like the capital improvement projects, do want to note that for CDBG projects, we do need the acknowledgement of required assurances, and we also need a risk assessment loaded into the documents tab before the application is submitted. And then for projects that are doing infrastructure or community facilities, we'd also be looking for a project timeline and funding sources. So we have a good idea of how long that project is going to potentially take and what other funding sources will be used. Any questions on CDBG?
Nope. All right, I'm going to jump in. The last one we have is our Veterans Assistance Fund. So this is not something that's out of the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention, but is out of social services within public health, our Veterans Fund. They do have an RFP out for $75,000 to assist for shelter beds for homeless veterans. So that is an award that the Veterans Assistance Fund has awarded the last several years. So that continues this year. So if there's questions about that, please reach out to me. I can connect you with Mark Moffitt, who runs that program. But I think there's a couple organizations, one or two organizations that may be familiar with those. But if you have questions, we'll do our best to answer them, but that's not an RFP that our office runs, but we kind of, it piggybacks onto this process. So if you have questions about that, please do let me know. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Jacinda. She's going to share her screen and we'll walk through Zoom grants here. Jacinda, if you could keep it to kind of, if we could be done maybe by 2:45 or so, so we have enough time for questions. And I see a question for Maureen has her hand up.
I don't know if this is the elephant in the room, but I have a question in terms of county guidance. I don't know, if I was a nonprofit agency dealing with the county moving forward, I'd be really nervous. I'm just wondering at what point the county can step in to do some technical assistance on acceptable practices so that when an agency is implementing their program, they are confident that they're meeting expectations and that there's no confusion about what is being expected from them in terms of documentation, et cetera. And I'm just wondering how that process works for the county in terms of awarding these contracts to nonprofits in the community.
Yeah, I will answer that question a little bit. I don't want to get into the details of that, but after contract award, the county does provide a grantee orientation, generally in the summer before contracts begin or right as they're beginning, to review with organizations expectations around contract compliance, how we do our subrecipient monitoring, invoicing, and other kind of how to implement contracts. So we intend to do that again this summer. So we do have a grantee orientation to help folks, organizations come on board. The county is always available to work with organizations to provide assistance, to work through the specifics of your contract and scope of work. So we work hard to maintain open lines of communication with all the organizations we work with.
Thank you.
All right, Jacinda.
Okay. So again, y'all, I don't have double screens at home. So if there's a hand up, please feel free to get our attention somehow. So the link to the application is, or the access to the application is in Zoom Grants, and then the link to Zoom Grants is on the county's website. I believe Nicole Boyes also sent out the link to probably all of you, everyone who is on the interested parties list. And I believe it's probably, I think it was also listed in the Olympian as well, I think. If you don't have it for some reason, please reach out to Tom or I or Nicole if you are used to working with her, and we can pass that on. So that being said, again, we are using Zoom Grants for our RFP or RFPs, excuse me. If you've already created an account in the past, you can visit the link and log in here. If you don't remember your login information, which may be very likely, there is an option to forgot password option, or I think you may also be able to email one of us staff here at the county and we can help you access it. So I already have one, but if you don't, goodness, so hard without double screens. Once you visit that link, there's a little box over here that says sign up for a new account. Maybe it's at the bottom here.
There's a sign up now button there, Jacinda.
I think that's maybe for, yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. If you're having issues on the first login or signing up, let me know. That being said, though, oh goodness, is it going to kick me out of what I had? Let's see. Thank you all for your patience. Let me switch over and we'll get back to. Sorry, Tom, not having two screens is so difficult. So while I'm getting back there, I will explain, if you are new to Zoom Grants and you have not created an application before or an account before, once you get in there, you will want to make sure that the person who is authorized to submit an application on behalf of your agency is a person that's signing up for that account. When you submit the application, it will ask that that person give initials that there's an authorization to submit it. So I will also say that once that person sets up the account, there is a way to add collaborators. And that is, those would be people who are working on the application, can edit, or can view. So view and edit, or just view. And that is kind of a good way if a CEO or something is going to be submitting or needs to be submitting, but there might be a staff person or a program person working on the application. That program person can be added as a collaborator. All right. Let's try getting in there one more time. All right. So when you guys visit the site, you will see our application here, Consolidated Grant Application. This includes questions and all of the funding sources that Tom and I just went over. So you'd want to apply. There it is. That's what I was looking for. The new Zoom Grants account is what you would fill out if you're new. If you haven't created an account before. Let's hope it cooperates and it's not super slow for us. All right, so again, open programs. You will see here that I have done some test applications. So you see my test applications listed here. You will want to, yours will say apply instead of apply again. So you'd apply. So this first page is where you will add collaborators here at the bottom. So again, these would be likely program staff that are working on the application, or if you're working with core or someone else who's doing the application for you. This is where you add those people. Please make sure that you give your project or your program a name. And I will skip the rest of this stuff for right now. So the majority of the questions, the meat of the application per se, will be under this application questions tab. You'll also notice these blue tabs at the top here. These are your friends. So if you have a question about the eligibility, if you're eligible for any of the funding sources, you can click this program eligibility, read more about what we are looking for with each of those different RFPs. The library is also a really good resource. So the library is where you will find, as I mentioned before, specific instructions that are, again, specific to whatever funding source or RFP you are applying for. Are you guys able to see my shared screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it just popped up a weird
Yes, I can
message.
see it.
Is it,
That's fine.
This is
Got it.
Deb Larson. And I can see it all right.
Okay, great. Thanks, Deb. So your library is where you'll find really useful information specific to the RFP. So you will find scoring, consolidated instructions is about all of the RFPs. You'll find, again, the Cdbg instructions, which goes over, again, more about eligible activities and the AMI limits and all that good stuff. So this is a very helpful tab. Again, right at the top here, all of the questions, the application questions are in the application questions tab. This first question is really important. Once you click on here, and you'll notice that some of these will say not open for 2022 applications. I think it actually might still allow you to click on them, but it's easier for us to kind of use the same application instead of redoing the application from scratch each year. So once you click which project, what type of project or program you're that's applying, this is going to branch off the application so that you're only going to see questions that apply to your program. So if you are clicking a Cdbg, you're not going to see questions that are related to capital improvement projects. So this one is important. Again, if you are not sure where you might fit, feel free to give us a call and we can help direct you so that the rest of the application, you're getting the correct questions. The other tabs here, the budget tab, I won't spend too much time on this other than to say there are two tables here. It's a very, very large page here. Please make sure you're filling out the correct budget. So if you are a services, applying for a public services, so non-capital projects, this top one is the budget table you fill out. If you're working on a capital improvement project, so those housing projects, affordable housing projects with Homer 2060, or a Cdbg project that's doing public facilities or public improvements, use this bottom budget table. The last document that is really important, if you recall, I had mentioned that depending on what kind of project or program you are submitting, that there are documents that are requested or required. So you'll notice that the ones that are required are highlighted for your convenience. The verification and signature form, I will let you guys know if you click on anything that has this blue text, you can click on and download that template. So you don't have to make your own. You click on it, you download it. This one is a form fillable if you click and download. It's not showing right here, but you should be able to click and download, and this signature line will be an electronic signature. Should let you electronically sign. I will note that once it's all filled out, you still have to upload it. So keep that in mind.
And I'll just jump in and say, if anyone has problems with that electronic signature, if you just sign it and then scan it and upload it. So the PDF form is a little sensitive. So sometimes it works for us, sometimes it doesn't. So if you're having any problems with electronic signature, just print it out, sign it, and then scan it and upload it.
And then, and with that one, you do want to make sure that someone who's authorized to sign it, commit the agency is doing that. The rest of these ones aren't within the application. You will see references to some of these items, and it'll say, please upload in the documents tab. So that's where you would come over here, and you would find you know, the financial commitment letters. You click upload, you search your files, and you upload it. You do have to refresh before it's going to show up, so just remember that. And for capital projects, again, the project timeline and the financing sources, again, we've provided a template so you can download it, fill it out, and then save and upload it back. The acknowledgement of required assurances is required for any federal projects. That one is one that won't allow an electronic signature, so you are going to need to sign it and scan and upload it back. The risk assessment, again, for capital improvements or CDBG projects, that is needed. That is a risk assessment that you essentially do on your own program and provides us more information about, for instance, last time you were monitored and if there were any findings, the length of the time staff has been working on the program and such. And then again, once you have completed the project or completed the application, uploaded everything you need to upload, you submit now. If there's anything that's required that you missed, it'll let you know. For instance, if you didn't upload that verification form. And then once you, almost need that, let's see, let's move this. Once you submit it, you will see in your account home, my applications, you can go to the submitted applications and you can see which ones you've submitted. And you have that option of printing or copying or clicking into it if it's before the deadline of April 1st at noon and changing anything in there. So this is where you will do that. And if for some reason you start an application and it's in progress and it hasn't been submitted, you'll see that up here in the incomplete applications. Again, that's under the My Account home. I've gone a little bit over, so I will stop sharing. There we go. Any questions about Zoom grants?
Well, I am a little bit confused. This is Deb Larson, and so there are CDBG grants that are, those are only for like city government, that type of thing.
No, with CDBG, nonprofits can apply. The city governments themselves, for instance, like public facilities projects or public improvements like sidewalks tend to be done by the cities themselves. So they can also apply. So it's not limited.
There has to be a project that would be for the public. It couldn't be a, like, say, a homeless shelter, or could it?
So the construction or improvements to a homeless shelter would be public facilities. But if there's services that are being offered in or to that shelter, that would be a public services activity.
Okay.
So
that's not in the purview.
Public services is, yes, that is an eligible activity this year.
But it's not CDBG.
It is CDBG, yes.
The
only activity that isn't, activities that aren't being solicited with CDBG this year are housing activities, housing related activities. For instance, like a home repair programs or something that would be providing housing or keeping housing safe and affordable.
Okay.
So I think we want to, we want to make sure.
I missed some of this, but
it's okay.
I was misinformed about the time. Not by Tom. It was a oops of one of my colleagues.
And if Deb, if there's if you have, if you're working on a project or program, or you have a question about if something specific, build a bus, correct?
No, no, I'm not. Oh, is Build a Bus there? I'm not Build a Bus.
So if you have a specific question about something that you're working on, go ahead and please reach out to myself or Tom, and we can help you determine if it's an eligible activity and what to check in that first question if it is.
Okay, sounds good.
Cynthia, I have a question. This is Lisa. I logged into Zoom Grants and I don't see the 2022 information on there yet. Is that, what do I do next?
Sorry, so I'm switching over. So you should see the like it'll say like programs, open programs.
Yeah, it doesn't have that on my page when I logged in.
Tom, any insight into that?
Has anyone else experienced that? Have other people gotten into Zoom Grants yet and been able to open an application?
Yes, I have.
I updated my password and it opens.
Yeah, I see the account and the profile, but that, and all that I see is the submitted one from last year.
Lisa, how are you getting into Zoom Grants? Are you going from the county's, the link?
No, I just went to zoomgrants.com.
Try opening through the link from either the email we sent out or the county webpage. Try getting into Zoom Grants through that way.
All right, can do. Thanks.
If that doesn't work, reach out to us and we'll help you figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
I just put that link in the chat, and I think Lisa, I think that is a problem because when I was testing it, I was just going to the website as well instead of using the link. So that link should work, but let us know if it doesn't.
It did work.
Great.
Thanks.
All right.
I know we talked more than I thought we were going to talk, but really, we're available to go past 3 o'clock. I know we scheduled this just for an hour, but so want to make sure we have time. We will stay on as long as you have questions. So we're happy to stay on past 3 o'clock to answer any questions that are out there. So I don't want people to feel rushed. I do apologize if we run over, but happy to continue answering any questions that anyone has.
Because I logged in late, I missed the name of the presenter.
Jacinda Stelchis.
It's Jacinda?
Yes.
Jacinda? Jacinda?
Deb, I'll send her her contact information.
Okay.
And she's put it in the chat.
Okay, super.
Other questions? I will say that, so for the homeless services activities, so for the cold and hazardous weather applications, the CHG and the capital, those are all under the Regional Housing Council. So those applications will be reviewed kind of under the Regional Housing Council with recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners coming from the Regional Housing Council. For the CDBG applications, those applications will be reviewed by a group consisting of the mayors of Yelm, Bucota, Tenino, and Rainier, and the county manager. So based on the recommendations of that group, those recommendations will be going to the county commissioners for approval. The veterans funds will be reviewed by the Veterans Advisory Board. So those are the decision-making bodies who will be reviewing applications, and all recommendations eventually go to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval. Other
Lisa
questions?
Again, Lisa again. I'm scrolling through here and I'm just wondering about the last time I remember seeing something that showed the eligibility for each option. Is that, am I just missing that? Oh, I see it now.
See it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Last call for this meeting for questions. If you do experience technical difficulties with Zoom Grants, you can reach out to us. We will try to troubleshoot. There is an option within Zoom Grants. If you're having kind of technical issues, there's also a Zoom Grants help desk. You can email Zoom Grants directly and they can help with more of the technical troubleshooting. But if you are having kind of issues, we will do our best to assist you with those questions. If you have other questions as you get in the application, please reach out. We will do our best to answer questions. If there are questions we think are applicable to the entire population, we will post those on our website. You know, we cannot provide guidance on how to complete your application, what type of information we're looking for. So we cannot answer those kinds of questions, but if you have kind of clarifying questions, we will do our best to answer those and then post those so everyone has access to the same information. So everyone's on an equal footing and no one has inside information is one of the things we just want to make sure we maintain.
I will add though, within Zoom Grants, within the libraries tab, there is a document, a consolidated instructions document that lists questions, each question of the application, and it provides a little bit more information about what we were looking for in that question or a little bit more guidance.
Yeah, that's a really valuable document that hopefully is useful for people. All right, hearing or seeing no other questions, we will close out this meeting. Thank you all. We look forward to receiving lots of high quality applications. We hope your agency is successful and we look forward to working with you moving forward. So thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for what you do, Tom, and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.